Hi there, it's Cindy Pope in the Cool Tools Studio. I'm going to show you how to make some mixed metal earrings using Hadar's One Fire Flex, Pearl Gray Steel, and Dark Champagne Bronze. Let's get started. So let's show you the tools we're going to use for this project. Distilled water, the Cool Tools biopsy punches, which are very sharp punches in many different millimeter sizes. We're going to use Hadar's One Fire Flex Dark Champagne Bronze, which is a high fire clay, and Pearl Gray Steel One Fire Flex, which is also a high fire clay. So that's why we can use them together. I'm going to use these little brass tubes as armatures. We have a dual holder, and the reason we're going to do this is we're going to have champagne on one side and we're going to have steel on the other. So we need two separate brushes because we're going to be using them differently. I've got two little containers to put my powder that I'm going to make the slip with. I'm going to use ball burrs and a 6mm setting tool. You need a heating surface, Renaissance wax, a little white tile. I'm going to be using Joyce Chen scissors. These are really nice scissors to do detailed cutting, and they also snip metal. Tweezers, and we're going to have rolled out clay. I have a clay rolling video that's going to show you how to roll this clay, and any one of the templates from the Cool Tools store, and a pencil. So let's get started. What I've got is I've pre-rolled the flex clay, and I've sealed it in my food saver. And you can also keep it in a plastic bag. I love this food saver for it because it lasts a long time and it protects it. I often use this for my classes. So I'm going to cut it open. And you can see I've rolled these nice thin sheets. I have a clay rolling video where you can learn exactly how to do this. It's with silver clay, but Hadar's clays work exactly the same. I have obviously mixed them and then rolled them and dried them. What I'm going to do with this dry piece of flax is I'm going to actually use scissors and use a template and cut out the earring shapes. So I'm going to go as large as I can. This clay shrinks a lot, and actually the reason I've added a hole to it is because this is one of the higher shrinkage clays. Because of that, a hole will keep it from having some firing distortion and give you a little more consistent curve. So I like to add a hole, and sometimes I'll add holes behind armatures. Like if I put a big bronze piece, I would actually put a hole behind it. So we're going to choose our template shape. And I'm going to take the scissors, and you're going to see that flex clay is so nice that we can just cut it with scissors. I'm using just the tip of the Joyce Chen scissors. And it's an easy way to cut your clay. I'm a huge fan of this flex clay and cutting it, and you can do it with Easy 960 and FS99 also. So anytime you're using one of the flexible clays that Cool Tools is selling, you're going to be able to do this cutting out of templates. I'm going to now sand it and shape it up and cut the other one out. Okay, we've cut out our pieces, and I'm going to shape them up as my cutting is not perfect. And when I shape them, I'm going to add them together and make sure they're the same size. You know, this dry working gives you a lot more time for construction, and you're not worried about the clay drying or cracking. So I find it a much more relaxing way to work, and you can stop at any time and come back to it. And occasionally I get called away and I'm not really worried about where I'm at in the process. Okay, what we're going to do at this point, this is fairly flexible, but I'm going to show you how you make this to a really flexible clay because we're going to want to curve this over an armature, a bronze tube. So I'm going to take and I'm going to sand it. When I use this clay with the Curio, which is a die cutting machine, the cutting process actually loosens up the clay. But when I cut it from sheet, I'm going to want to sand it a little bit. So now it's a lot more flexible. You don't want to bend it. We're going to do everything bending gently. And you'll see that when I put it over the tube. So I'm going to sand this one in a minute. Let's bend it over the tube. I've got 3 tubes here, and what I'm wanting to do, I curved this one up in a doming form. But this one I think I'm going to want to curve over. But first I'm going to cut the little 8mm hole out of it. You want to be on a hard surface when you're using this cutter. The silicone has too much give. And you want to try to get it centered. And you could put a lot of the punches come in all different sizes, so you could really put a lot of holes in there. I'm trying to get it centered. And I'm just going slowly. There we go. And it's going to be stuck in there. I'm going to take a little tweezers and push it sideways and then pull it out. And that can be used for something else. Before I bend this one, I'm going to actually use, this is a template to make sure the holes are in exactly the same place. Even when they're on separate ears, it will make you crazy if your holes are not in the same place. So I'm just going to go through this one hole and make a little mark on the bottom piece for when I'm ready to cut that hole. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take these tubes, and I want a tube that the sides will fit all the way over. And I think I'm going to use the second smallest one. And I'm just going to start to roll it on the back. And this is the back, this is where I sanded. I'm going to start to roll it, and it's starting to curve. And I like my pieces curved. I like a little movement. And you certainly can dap things after they're fired. This one, the steel's really a little tough to dap because it's so strong when it's fired. And you don't want it, if it feels stiff, you want to go slow. If it's not stiff, you can keep moving, but I'm being very careful because I don't want it to crack. I call this encouraging a curve. So once I've got it curved, I'm going to put it over the heating surface, and I'm going to put it over that tube. I'm actually going to put the tinier one down there. And this clay stays very flexible, but heating will set the curve. So I want that curve to stay while I'm constructing, so I'm going to leave it on the heating surface for a little bit of time while I'm curving the next one. All right, now that we've dried our pieces, we're going to go ahead and make some little embellishments to put on our earrings. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the biopsy punch, and I'm going to, for some visual interest, I'm going to use different sizes. It's very much up to you what you want the design to be. You could do lines, you could spread them all over. Your earrings don't have to be the same. It's really your design. I love the little teeny tiny 2mm ones. So I'm just cutting them out. And then I'm going to take a little acrylic tube and poke it out. I'm going to do that with a few different sizes. And this is about a 2-card sheet. And I'm going to bring forward some that I've already made. I'm going to take these off the heating surface and let them cool down a little bit. But because I've heated them, that it's going to be more likely to keep that curve, and that's what we want. So this is in doing this mixed metal piece, we have two different colors, so we have to be kind of careful not to get too much steel on the bronze, not to get too much bronze on the steel. So the way I do that is I take this dual tray, and I'm going to put slip in both sides, and I have two different brushes, and then I'm going to kind of work in attaching it. So I'll put bronze slip on the bottom, and then I'll attach it with and I'll put steel slip on the bottom, I'll attach it with bronze slip. So you kind of see the process. And the whole point is I don't want to get a bunch of steel on top of my shiny bronze. It will polish off, but it gives you a better start. So I'm going to put a little water in here. It's hard not to get the brushes mixed up. You could use two different kinds of brushes. I just love these Princeton brushes, so I'm going to use both of those. They're very nice for detail work. I'm going to mix it up a little bit. And I don't want heavy slip, I just want slippy water. This one I'm going to mix with the other brush, and we're going to get started. So before I attach anything, because it's dry, I don't have to hurry. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do all my placements before I attach anything. And I have this little container, and I have all different sizes. And like I said, it can be 1, it can be 2, it can be 15. I think it'd be really cool to cover one side and not the other. There's really so many different options. You could also use half balls instead. I'm a big fan of the little tiny ones. And at this point, I will usually also put the mirror image on the other one. For the sake of the video, I'm not going to do both right now. So now that I've got them all placed, I'm going to add each one at a time. We're going to start with the bronze, and I'm going to put it in the puddle. And I'm going to move it around with the brush and start to hydrate and put a little bit of slippy water on that. Now I'm going to make a little dot using the steel. And the dot is going to be where I'm going to add my piece. We're going to pick it up. You're going to place it on, and you're going to move it back and forth till it catches. And then once we're going to get them all on, we're going to put them in the heating surface. And with the refining, we're also using both colors at the same time. And you're going to get a much neater mixed metal piece doing this. So let's add a couple more. We'll add them all, and you would put them in the heating surface. We're going to finish both earrings, and then we'll talk about refining. Okay, we've dried the piece, so these are attached, but we want to refine them so they're well attached. But before I do that, I'm just going to sand a little bit on the top, sand it even. Sometimes when you add water, they get a little misshapen, and I like them to be nice and round. Okay, so what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to refine with steel on the bottom and smooth with bronze on the top. And this is very watery steel. But if any bronze had gotten on this in the process, it would cover it up. So it's almost like painting it on there. But we're going to go right around the edge of each of these dots. And I'll go through, do this 2 times. Because I do aggressive polishing. Because I like my steel and my bronze very shiny. And I'm going to do a finishing video. I'll show you how to do that. So once I've got the steel on there and I've reinforced all the way around, we're going to take some bronze, and this is going to be mostly water. I want to have very little bronze in it, and I'm just going to smooth the tops because there is a tiny bit of steel on the top of some of them. And if I had used really heavy bronze water, it might get down on the steel, and then I go back and need to go back with the steel. Okay, so we've got it ready to dry again. We're going to do the same reinforcing one more time, and then we're going to drill a hole. Let's let it dry. Okay, now that we have dried our piece, we're going to refine one more time, and I'm going to try using Monavie Tanner's healing tool. And this is a great little tool that's going to smooth this surface where I reinforced. So I'm going to get a little bit of this wet slip on there. And I'm just going to smooth around. And because it's got these sharp little edges, it's refining and it's smoothing. And I can get right around these teeny tiny itsy bitsy circles. And that way, there's not going to be a mark from where I did that reinforcing, which will certainly lessen the amount of time you're going to be doing finishing. Okay, now we've got it all smoothed over. We're going to dry it one more time, and then we're going to sand it and put a hole in it. Let's put the hole in it now. It's not very wet. It's already almost dried. So when I put a hole in an earring, I always start with the tiniest ball burr. This is, I think, the smallest one in the Cool Tools set. Actually going to put it on here. And steel is pretty hard. This low shrinkage steel is really hard to drill a hole in. Pearl Gray One Fire Flex is a little bit easier. So once I've got the hole where I want it, then I'm going to go with successively larger burrs. This is for earrings, and I don't want it to be too big. If you feel there is not enough room for an ear wire, the answer is just to brush it down. On a pointy earring, I would rather put the hole too far back and sand it down than to put it too far up and actually crack the piece. Okay, and the last thing I always do with my holes is I take my little 6mm stone setting burr and I use it for something completely different. I'm creating a nice curve to the hole, and the earrings will actually have more movement. They'll move better with this on, but it really just looks better. And then we're ready to go and put it in the kiln. While our piece is in the kiln, I want to talk to you a little bit about steel and finishing steel. Here we have 2 examples of the type of finishes you can get on steel. The first one is hot blued, and this is a non-chemical bluing, and I really like not using chemicals if I can. So this one is a non-chemical patina. It's called a hot bluing, and hot bluing is done by heating with a torch and quenching over and over again about 5 to 7 times until it gets a layer of oxidation. When you get the layer of oxidation, it protects it from any kind of rusting or tarnishing. And then I high polish the bronze parts, and you can seal it with protective wax. You can seal it with Renaissance wax, which will actually blacken it up. But you can also do a nice shiny stainless steel look. And this is a beautiful look, and I like mine really, really shiny. Sometimes I'll take it shiny. I'll go back to a brushed finish. But with this one, you can seal it. A lot of people do seal it. And there's something called Protect-A-Clear that I recommend for sealing it. You put on 3 coats and you dip it. But unless I'm selling a piece, I really just use a polishing cloth. So those are 2 of the different looks of steel. Now that we've finished our project, I hope it makes you more comfortable with using Hadar's clays and with mixing metals. I have some wonderful instructions on the product page. Feel free to look it over, and hopefully it'll give you everything you need to complete this project.
Visit our Learning Center at cooltools.us for more cool jewelry making videos. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and be sure to sign up for our email list to be the first to hear about new videos, new products, and other cool stuff from Cool Tools.